What's up everybody, Aditya Mahajan here and welcome back to yet another YouTube video. In today's video, we'll be solving another lead code question number 63, also called as unique paths 2. It has also been asked in day 28 of a pre-lead code challenge, so let's get started. A robot is located at top left corner of a M by N grid, marked start in the diagram below. The robot can only move either down or right at any point of time. The robot is trying to reach the bottom right corner of the grid, marked finished in the diagram below. Now consider if some obstacles are added to the grid, how many unique paths there would be. An obstacle and space is marked as 1 and 0 respectively in the grid. So what we are given is we are given a M by N grid, which you can also call a matrix, and we are given two constraints of moving, that is either we can move down or we can move to the right. This is my right and this is your right. The robot is trying to reach to the bottom right corner. So basically in the grid we have to move from top left corner to the bottom right corner. Okay, and in the grid, wherever the places are marked 1, they are obstacles, and where the places marked are 0, they are spaces, and to there we can move. So the constraints that we are given is we have rows and columns from 1 to 100, and every value of obstacle grid is 0 or 1. Now let us look at a few examples to understand the problem statement better. So these are the examples that we are given. Initially for the example 1, we have a 3 by 3 grid, and we have the robot, which means the start point, and we have the star, which means the end point. The red signifies the obstacle where we cannot go in that particular cell. So for this we have expected output as 2 because there are two unique paths. The two paths are given, that is, if you at the initial point we have two things to decide. I mean, either you can go to the right or you can go to the bottom. If you go to the right, then you can go again right and down, and then down, you reach the destination. Okay, and this is the first path. If you look at the second path, that is at initial position, if you choose to go down, then you can again go down, then you can go to the right and again go to the right, and you reach the destination, and this is the second path. Similarly, in the example 2, we have given 2 by 2 grid, and in this we have obstacle at 0 comma 1. So there is only one path, that is to go down and to the right. Now let us look at how we can solve this problem. If you have solved unique paths 1, that is another lead code question, then this question should be really very easy for you, because the only thing that is added in this question is the obstacles, right? So for the solution to, there would be only the simple thing that should be added is the conditional check. If there are obstacles, then we do not go ahead, that's it. Okay, for anyways, those who have not solved that question, let us look at from the basic how we can approach to the solution. Okay, so what is the first thing that we are doing in this problem? The first thing that we are doing is we are taking a decision whether to go to the right or to go to the bottom. I mean, not just at the first position, at every step we are doing the same thing, that is, if we have to go to the right or if we have to go to the bottom. So basically we are taking the decision, and whenever there are decisions, we solve this particular problem by with the help of recursion. So this would be a brute force approach that we are going to do. And in this, what we can basically do is we can call a shell function and pass the parameters required for the shell function for doing the recursion. And in that we can check if our indices that are present, that is we are recursing, those are into the particular bound of the grid. Second thing that we need to check in the recursion is that if on the current indice, that is I and j, if we have an obstacle, and if that is not the case, then we recurse for the right side and recurse ahead for the bottom side, and that's it. That is the first approach that we can solve. So let us look at how we can implement it. So this is the solution for the first approach that we just discussed. This is the brute force, and it is not accepted, it is just given TLE, but to understand we are discussing it. So basically we are making two global variables m and n for the rows and columns, because we would also be requiring them in the solve function. So rather than passing them the rows and columns, I have directly made them global. Okay, so we are setting those variables m and n with row and column, and after that what we are doing is we are calling the recursive function solve, passing the obstacle grid, which is the vector of vector just passed, and two indices I comma j, which would tell us where we are exactly present in the recursion and in the grid. Okay, so this solve function, what this solve function basically does is initially it checks the bounds, that is if I and j, that is on the present position or the present iteration, if we are not outside the grid, that is if I is less than 0 or j is less than 0, or I is greater than or equal to m and j is greater than or equal to n. If that is the case, then we return 0 because we are outside the grids. Second thing that we check is if there is an obstacle present on the current index. That is, if grid of I comma j is equal to 1. This is the same as saying grid of I comma j is equal to 1. If it is 1, then we return 0 because there is an obstacle present and we do not have to do anything. After that, what we check is if we are present on the destination. That is, if we are on the star, that is at the last bottom right cell, then we have to return true because we are done. That is a valid path. So that is what we are doing. If we are checking that I equal to m minus 1 and j equal to n minus 1, and on the current cell there is no obstacle, right? In this case we return 1. Okay, and if that is not the case, then we proceed further. Okay, so while proceeding further, we have two cases to think of. That is, if we have to go to the right or we have to go to the bottom. Okay, so I plus 1 basically goes to the bottom, and solve of grid I and j plus 1 goes to the right. So these that's it. That's the solution for the first approach. Now let us look at the second approach. So the first approach that we just saw with the help of recursion is giving a TLE because our problem has a lot of overlapping subproblems. Overlapping subproblem means whenever we do a recursive calls, the parameters that we are passing, so that particular parameter refer to the value of any particular cell. Okay, and if that particular values are repeated for any other cell too, that is we are doing the same calculations but twice or thrice or more number of times, which is actually the unnecessary work. So basically what we will do in this approach is we will create a grid of same size, that is m by n, and we will be storing the values of the recursive calls that we are getting. Okay, so what will basically happen with this is whenever we do a recursive call, we will get an output of that particular cell. Okay, and we will store that output of that cell in this grid, so that if anytime further we are getting that same particular recursive call, then we will initially check when this grid if that value is already calculated, and if it is calculated, we'll just return that. This will save a lot of time and a lot of resources that we are having. So there are a very few changes that we have to do. So let us look at the code so that you will understand it better. This is the solution for the second approach that we just talked with the recursive memoization. Its time complexity is O of m by n, and space complexity is also O of m by n, because we are creating a DP grid for storing our output values. Okay, so you might be basically seeing almost all the code is same. We have done a few minor changes. Okay, so what we have basically changed here is we have created a vector of vector called DP. Okay, which is a global variable, just as rows and columns, because we will be using it in our solve function, recursive function. And in the unique paths with obstacle function, what we have changed is we are resizing the DP vector of vector so that it matches the size of our obstacle grid. Okay, so what it basically does is it take m rows and initializes every row with a vector of length n. Okay, so it basically corresponds to same dimensions of obstacle grid. After that, what we are basically doing is we are recursing with the solve function, which is very similar to the same approach, and the first three conditional checks that we are doing here are the same as the previous approach. So the first is bounds checking if we are not going out of the grid. Second is if we are checking if we have found an obstacle, and the third is we are checking if we are at the last index. These three things what we are doing is very similar to the first approach what we are doing, so I will not be explaining what they are doing here. Okay, so the only thing that we are changing is we were earlier just returning it, that is if obstacle is found. Here we are just storing it into DP of I comma j and then returning it. The extra condition that we are adding here is we are checking before making the further recursive calls. We are checking that if DP of I comma j, that is on the current index, its recursive call is already made. If that is made, we'll just return that. And if it is not made, we are proceeding further with the same recursive calls just after saving it into DP of I comma j. That's it. That's the complete solution. And I mean, you would be wondering, by adding just 1, 2, and 3 to 4 lines, with 3 to 4 lines you can complete a TLE problem to complete a workable solution. That's the power of memoization. Okay, so that's it. Now after this we will look at how we can do this dynamic programming with the iterative approach. So for handling the problem iteratively, we need to do a lot of things on our own, because in the recursive approach, the recursive calls were giving the output and populating the table. But for iterative, we need to handle the things on our own. Okay. So for thinking for the iterative approach, I want you to think in terms of that for every cell that we have, what are the number of unique ways to reach to that particular cell? Okay, so if you think of the problem in that terms, it would become a lot easier. Okay, so initially I want you to think for a sub problem that we have, that is for just for this first row and first column. Okay, so there is one observation that I want you to note, that is if you look at all the cells that are on the first row or on the first column, there is only one possible unique way that you can reach to these cells. This is because the constraints that we are given is you just can go to the right or bottom. Okay, so if you are on this cell, there is only one way to go from the top, that is to go to the right. We cannot go down, go right, and then go up. Okay, because we do not have the ability to go up. Similarly, if you want to go down, then this is the only way you can go, that is going down. You cannot go to right, then down, and then left. Okay, because of the constraints that we are given. So which is why all the values in the first complete row and first complete column would have just one single unique path from which they can reach to that particular point. Okay, so for all the values that we have in the first row and first column would be 1. And I think you now got why it is possible, because due to the constraints that we are given. Okay, and one more thing, that there is no obstacle here. I have taken a simpler example to explain this. So now that we have seen for the first row and the first column, I want you to note one more observation that we have. Okay, so think of this particular cell and think of in how many ways you can come to this cell in just a single step. Okay, so in single step you can either come from this particular one which is on the top, or this particular one which is on the left. So these are the two ways from which you can come to this cell, that is which is present in the center. So how many number of ways there are present to reach to this cell from the top? This would be this sum, that is 1 which is on the top, plus 1 which is on the left, because these are the only two possibilities and which we have already calculated, being 1 and 1. Okay, so for this particular center cell, the total number of unique ways to this reach this cell from the start would be 2. I don't think if you are able to see it, I'll just change the color. So this would be 2. To reach this center cell, the number of ways you can get to here from the top is 2, because adding from the top and from the left. And actually this was also the same case for this particular cell too, but there was no element on the top, so we just considered from the left, right? Now even if you go forward for these two cells too, this is the same thing. You can come here from the left or from the top. So we add 2 plus 1 which becomes 3 here, and for this cell you can come from the top or from the left. So we add 2 plus 1, so this also becomes 3. Okay, and for final thing, if you look for this particular cell, you can come from the top or from the left. So you can come from 3 ways or these 3 ways. So total number of ways that you can come at this particular final destination is 6, adding these and 3. This is not equal to our previous answer because we do not have an obstacles here. Okay, so don't get confused. So this is the approach for going iteratively, and if we get an obstacle anywhere in between, we just have to ignore that particular cell and go ahead further and put 0 there. That's it. I mean, if you happen to, what is happening, if the case is something like this, that is there we have an obstacle here. So what we basically have to do is, we already saw that these first row and first column will have value 1. Okay, but now here we have obstacle, right? So for this particular, we do not have to take anything into account, we just have to do 0 here. Because if we do 0 here, because we cannot come from the top here or come from the left here, so for this particular cell we do not have to take into account the left part of this cell, and for the top part for the bottom cell that we have. Okay, so this would be considered if we put for every obstacle 0 in that particular dp table. And that's it, that's the solution. Now let us look at how we can implement it. Okay, so this is the approach, and this is the code for the approach that we just saw, that is with dynamic programming, the iterative approach. Okay, so what we are basically doing here is we are taking two variables, row and column, and taking their values, setting their values according to the grid, and creating a dp table and initializing it to the dimensions similar to that of grid. That is taking the rows and setting each row with the column, okay, size of the column, and setting each value to 0. After that, what we are doing is, as we saw in the approach while explaining in the blackboard, we saw that the first complete row and the first complete column was having the value 1, because of the constraints of movement that we are given, that is we can only move to the right and only move down. Okay, due to which we need to fill the complete first row and the first column with 1. Okay, the only condition that we need to check is, if in that particular row or that particular column, if anywhere if we get an obstacle, we just break out of that loop, because if we get an obstacle we cannot move forward, right? So that part, that complete block after that or complete block below that would completely be restricted and we cannot go there. Okay, so that is what we are doing here. So in this for loop we are initializing the complete column. Okay, we are going into the all columns, that is dp of 0, dp of 1 comma 0, dp of 2 comma 0, dp of 3 comma 0, and setting that to 1. And if we get any obstacle in between, in that case we are just breaking out of this for loop, and rest of the things below that will remain 0. Similarly, in this we are doing setting all the first row to 1. If we get anywhere obstacle, in that case we are just breaking there, and the rest of the row would remain as 0. Okay, so sorry. After that, what we are doing is we are just doing a for loop, two for loop for iterating the rest of the table and filling the values in it. Okay, and in that case our ends are from 1, because we have initially filled the indices 0 for row and column in this previous two loops. Okay, so for here what we are doing is, as I already said, if we get anywhere the obstacle, that is grid of I comma j equal to 1, that is we have found an obstacle. In that case we just continue, we do not have to do anything, because everywhere initially we have a value 0 set. Okay, while setting we have set the complete dp table to 0. That is why if we have found an obstacle, we do not have to do anything, we just have to move to the next loop. Okay, and if that is not the case, we have not found the obstacle, what we are basically doing is, for any particular cell we are taking the value from the top and taking the value from the left and adding them together. Your would be this left. Okay, so we are taking the value from the top and taking the value from the left, adding them together and putting it to the current value, because these are the only two paths that we can come from. And that's it. After exiting from these two for loops, we are present and we are populated the complete dp table that the recursion had did for us. Okay, so now what every particular cell of the dp table means, that for that particular cell the number of ways to reach from the top left to that particular cell would be the total number of ways, that would be the value of that cell. Okay, so if you want the total number of unique ways to reach the destination from the first cell, would be the value that is present in the last cell. Okay, so that is why we are returning dp of row minus 1 and column minus 1, which is the last value that we need to return, and which is our answer. And that's it. Now let us try to run our code and see if it works. And yes, it's working. Let's just submit it. Okay, we are getting 4 millisecond and faster than 63%. This was actually the same solution, and it also gave me 0 millisecond. So do not worry about this time. It depends on the test cases that are generated for this particular submission. So that's it. That's the solution. Those are the three approaches. And if you like the video, hit the like button. If you did not understand any particular thing, comment below. I'll try to respond as fast as possible. The code link will be in the description. If you need more such LeetCode content, subscribe to the channel and join the Discord server. And that's all. See you in the next one. Bye bye.